to the 40K Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40K with your hosts Vik, Vijay and David Gaylard. Okay, perfect.
Bam.
Welcome back, everyone, to 40K Fireside. We are going old school today. Me and Dave are going to take it back to our roots. We're doing a podcast episode, pretty much, where, we're just going to be talking. You're going to be hearing our lovely voices, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things here. We've got tournaments coming up. We've been practicing. It's been a little bit of time since we recorded an episode, so there's a lot to discuss in the meta as well. Dave, do you want to kick it off?
I mean, I guess this is always how we started the podcast, wasn't it? We were just kind of chatting about what we got coming up. Obviously, we were playing tournaments like every single weekend, or almost, when we first started off. So a little bit back to the roots, which is fun. Quick reminder before we go: this is episode 69, and just to plug the membership side as well. We've got always consistently great stuff coming out on the membership side of stuff. Vik and I are both branching out and playing different factions as well. And is there going to be Thousand Suns coming out sometime soon?
Yeah, Thousand Suns is really soon, so that quite works quite well because we both have a bit of faction speciality in that.
Definitely, yeah.
So we can do some content together.
Yeah, and I guess like Emperor's Children and the Guard Codex, a lot of it comes out well before release as well, right? So potentially we could just be talking about that well before it's Tournament Legal as well. So something I just thought of on a random tangent there. So membership side of things for the video is great. Our Discord has been great. Vik and I were actually both playing games in our Discord. I played against Liam's Harlequins, Liam VSL, of course, and Vik was playing against a gentleman playing Blood Angels as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Peyton playing his Blood Angels. Quite cool that we can play these kind of high-level games on there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, the Discord thing has been amazing because as you'll see as we go further into this video, and on the members side as well, where I've done a deep dive into Ynnari list building theory, a lot of the ideas I've taken for that is actually from the Discord channel. So it's quite a growing community, and if you do want to get involved with that, just make sure to join at the Phoenix Lord level, which will let you get Discord access on top of all the videos we do on the members side.
For sure. And last but not least, the early game algorithm. I'm going to be recording a video probably straight after this, doing all the follow-up questions. That's a series, a masterclass that I've done, which is about 3.5 hours long. So it's about 5 hours of content all up for 20 quid. I have a link down in the description. It basically builds you a foundation of how to get started in the early game, everything that I think through. I've had an amazing amount of feedback from there and a great bunch of questions afterwards. So if you're a newer player, or even if you're just a regular tournament goer, it'll be right for you as well. And I'm going to be actually developing a brochure that you can take to a tournament that will have the steps and methodology of how you can get started. So you know how you have those little UKTC booklets? You can take this, basically. It's a one-page pamphlet you can print off, and it'll have an instructional guide of how you can assess your opponent's list, look about what you should put in strat reserve, and do everything in the early game as well. So
fantastic.
A little bit of a tooltip, and hopefully when we play next, I'm going to be using that in the game that we play as well. So very instructional. It's very practical.
Fantastic. And Dave, how would people get access to this masterclass?
For sure. You could just send 20 quid, 20 British pounds to 40kfireside@gmail.com via PayPal. Instructions and link will be in the description as well.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Awesome. All right.
What have you been up to, Vik?
Okay, this has been a great time in 40K for me.
Really?
Because we've just had a balance update. We've now got a relatively static meta with this little look at maybe the strongest army in the game getting nerfed. So I'm a little bit excited because I've not only got the Eldari Codex in full force now, the ideas have matured in it, but we've also got Emperor's Children coming out pretty much around the corner as well. And then with T-Suns coming after that, it's looking pretty good for me going forward from here to be sticking to my faction specialities. So at the moment, I've been messing around a lot with Ynnari. I've got a couple of super mages coming up. So I've got the Sheffield Super Major coming up this weekend.
Oh, so you are playing in Sheffield?
Yeah, so I'm at Sheffield. Yeah, so I'm at Sheffield with the Ynnari. And then in 2 weeks' time, I've got the Birmingham Super Major by Glasshammer, so which is actually in Solihull, which is where I live. So just down the road.
Can't get much easier than that. Well, let's
Fantastic.
let's. Why don't we just go straight in? You were saying there's been a few changes
Hmm.
in Yanari and in the way that you've been thinking. Why
Hmm.
don't we go through your list? If you have it up, or I
Yeah,
can
no,
get
I
it up.
mean, I do a really deep dive into every element because, list building is an area which I really enjoy in 40K. And combining all the different building blocks is a very important strategy to making good lists.
For sure.
But the different building blocks have really matured over time in Yanari. And my list kind of puts together a few core building blocks to make a list that's MSU with some hammer units in it as well. In terms of quickly going over the list, I've got Ivrain with 10 Incubi and the Visarch. We've got a unit of 10 Dark Reapers and 6 Wind Riders, which act as the hammer units in the list. We've then got a bunch of MSU, so we've got 2 more units of 5 Dark Reapers, 2 units of 5 Howling Banshees with Autarchs, 3 units of Warp Spiders, all 5 mans. And then we've got a Wave Serpent, and that's and 3 Warp Spiders. Yeah, that's
Cool.
pretty much the list there.
So you got
Um,
like the 10-man Reaper, the big unit of Wind Riders, and your Vayne. So your
yeah.
Vayne's the good like big punch unit in combat
Mhm.
matchups, and the more shootout matchups, you've got the Wind Riders and the 10 Dark Reapers that you can really
Exactly.
focus your attention on, right?
And you have no choice but to bring fire dragons, so there are a couple of units of fire dragons in there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, only 2 units now. So
Yeah,
is that
only two
because of the
units.
point increase? Do you think, or
Yeah, they're a little bit more expensive, and there are other ways. You see, the way I've kind of thought about the game has changed a little bit over time. I've
yeah,
been getting more practice in now, so I'm starting to feel more comfortable with this army, and just starting to realize you don't really have to kill everything to win games. There's a lot more to it, and the fire dragons do detract from some other parts of the army. They're not able to punch in combat. They're not the fastest thing in the world as well. They're just as fragile as all Eldar, and they're extremely expensive. So just having a couple of units which could be in a Wave Serpent just so that they can reach the 1 or 2 targets you need to reach feels like more than enough for me at this point, especially
yeah,
because I've got a bit of anti-tank in the big units of Dark Reapers and lots of Dark Reapers in this list. So yeah, kind of covering all angles. Dark Reapers are a really interesting one because I think we were hot on them at the start, and then everyone got a little cold on them, dropping them out of their list. And now people are starting to get a little bit more hot on them again because they do something where they have a bit of anti infantry and anti tank.
yeah.
And the 3 damage profile, the anti tank profile, is good into elite infantry as well. In
Exactly. Yeah,
working at 48 inches as well
it's really good.
mitigates some of the weakness of Eldar dying to any kind of mid-range shooting. Like just bolters will kill most of a unit of Eldari. But playing at 48 inches means you have to commit long-range firepower to kill them,
Yep.
which is not as effective into Eldar because they're kind of these little MSU units with invulnerable saves.
Cool. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think people have been coming a bit hotter onto Dark Reapers, and Dan on our Discord was really pushing the idea that we should have 10 to 20 Dark Reapers even in a non-aspect host list,
Yeah.
and I've kind of stuck to that, and I've gone for 20 Dark Reapers here. And
Yeah.
in testing, the unit of 10 has been amazing. So
Just every single game, right? Just
oh,
like
just
you position it
fantastic.
well, it's just like brr, brr, every
Yeah,
turn, right?
and
Yeah.
it's just so awkward for people to commit firepower to deal with Dark Reapers
Yeah.
that as long as you get the momentum right, they're just shooting all game. Even if they're not actually doing much, it does add up over time.
Yep. And I guess without getting too much, because you're going to go over this in the members video as well.
Mhm.
I like that idea of not having to fight everywhere on the table,
Mm.
but actually, okay, fire dragons. You actually just need it to. You can control the midpoint with lethal intent, and you can have fire dragons act defensively for your home field, for your
Mhm.
expansion, right?
Mhm.
And then if they're not playing super aggressive on your expansion home field, then you can like push them forward and then hit something on theirs to try and out OC them and beat them on the primary as well, right? So yeah, trying to do primary
Mhm.
well and then secondary as well, whilst not trying to table your opponent, right?
Exactly. Just trying not to get tabled yourself while still
Yeah.
keeping the score just a little bit in your favor is
Mm-hmm.
often enough to get your opponent to run at you. And those are the points when you can start pushing at someone.
Yeah.
What I've found over time is that if Eldari makes the first, and this is anyone except Liam, if anyone except Liam makes the first engagement with Eldar, I found it's really unpredictable how the game goes.
Mm-hmm.
You could really find yourself not having anything by turn 4, which I think is the point where Eldar, even if they have a score lead, they end up losing the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the playstyle is also something that's evolving with Eldari. at least especially from my side. But yeah, if you want to know more about those kind of nitty gritty details, obviously the Discord is the best place for it. But the Yannari deep dive is a pretty good one for you guys to check out as well.
Nice, exciting.
What about you, Dave? Where are you at with everything?
So I did a video recently about not having much time to play, and that has been probably a big part of my life for the past like month, I would say. I think I actually posted a screenshot of in our Ignite team chat. By the way, on a side tangent before we forgot, we'd like to officially formally invite Lewis Smith into Team Ignite, who's someone that I live just down the road from, and we're going to be playing Magic the Gathering Vintage Cube together at my place tonight.
Nice.
Lovely guy. He beat me at the LGT Shadow Round as well. He's playing his Tau. An excellent player and an excellent dude. So we're very happy to have him on the team.
Extremely solid player and plays the game in the most wonderful way.
Exactly. Where was I? So yeah, video where I haven't got a lot of time to play, which is true. And I posted a screenshot of my last time since played TTS, which was, I think, 11 days ago, which for, if you know me or anyone in our team, is probably quite a long time, maybe aside from Boris, perhaps. So yeah, I haven't been playing that much. And I'm preparing for a couple of tournaments as well. So we've got a little team tournament. It's a bit of a funsy in Saffron, just outside of Cambridge. So Boris, Brian, Lewis Smith, myself, and Jack Tite from Warmasters. We're going to go play some 5-man teams there. I'm playing Mechanized Guard, and I'm playing more or less the exact list that I talked about in the Mechanized Guard Brew State of Guard video I did a couple of days ago as well. With the exception that this tournament is allowing legends for some reason, so it's quite funny. And I forgot to actually put it in my list, so my list is 1945 points, but the other 55 points is for Iron Hand Stricken, of course, because I really wanted to play it. So I will be asking my opponent if I could fill that last 55 points. I think everything will be fine. This tournament is quite relaxed. So really look forward to that. But that's quite an innovative list, actually. I'm playing Mechanized Guard with only 3 transports, and I'm playing 2 Rogal Dawns and 3 Vanquishers. So a very different approach to this. I don't think anyone's done this, and I've been pushing the 3 Vanquishers as quite a good option for quite a while now. But it's a bit strange because you wouldn't normally think that a Mechanized Guard build would only play 3 transports. But this comes out of I had a lot of learnings coming out of Manchester, where actually you should probably play it more as a well-rounded guard list and only try and use your transports to simply activate your good stratagems, right? And then actually play your transports way more safe, because if you bleed them out, they're just easy targets for your opponent to sink damage into. So actually just play them really safe and activate them into the later parts of the game and use them as a counterpunch. So just have them in staging runes where you can jump out, do stuff consistently for the first 3 or 4 turns, and then push them out afterwards. Very different from, I think, what a lot of people have been playing. I think people were even playing up to 6-7 transports, for example. So yeah, going half of that and just trying to play some good guard units whilst having some good backup there. Because I do quite like that detachment. It's a good amount of fun. So we'll have to see how it goes, yeah.
Talking about guard, it's really interesting seeing how the lists have developed. I think Bridgehead completely disappeared from the tournament scene. Gone. And, Bridgehead isn't one of those things where you have really diehard fans of Bridgehead. No. So it's not surprising to see that go. But then you obviously innovated a lot in multiple different detachments here, Dave. Have you seen this archetype with like Combined Regiment as well? Because there's about 3 of those, exactly that list in Sheffield.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, Guard has developed kind of interesting, and I think the stats for last week for the Meta Monday are pretty much actually where I think Guard will rest in terms of win rate alone. I think it had a 46% win rate all over. Combined Arms was 48%, Hammer was 46%, and Mechanized Assault was 40-ish. Something 43 maybe, which I think is about how it's lined up. So there's a couple of things going here. I think Combined Arms and Hammer of the Emperor are of equal power level, but it can depend on the terrain format you're playing. Combined Arms is actually a little bit better, one would argue, on these GW, maybe UKTC boards where it's a little bit, the firing lanes are longer and slightly more, like, the firing lanes are longer, for example. Whereas GW, the firing lanes are literally, you can shoot an objective completely in the open on some boards, which is ludicrous. And the shooting from deployment zone to deployment zone is completely open in GW boards. So I think Combined Arm gets a lot of value there. On WTC though, for example, and maybe Search and Destroy on UKTC, I think I would prefer Hammer of the Emperor, because you get the mobility is really important there. And so, if you were playing a team tournament, for example, and you weren't first defending, so you didn't have board choice, I think Hammer would be a better all-round list. But I think in terms of if you get to narrow your matchups a lot more, Combined can be a bit better there. So what's interesting is that also I think a lot of players have shifted from playing like maybe Mechanized Siege or Hammer of the Emperor. They've gone back to a bit of comfort zone, and they've gone back into Combined Arms as well. I actually covered Nassim's list. He played at Goonhammer a while back, and he was playing a couple of big 20-man bricks of Krieg, Kassakin, and I think he was only playing 4 hulls, maybe. So 1 Dawn tank commander, and then a couple of Russes after that as well. So it's a bit more stock standard. But it's going to be interesting to see where it develops out. They both have pros and cons. So obviously Hammer has the speed and fall back and shoot, which is amazing. But Combined Arms just has lethal, which is very powerful, and the respawn mechanic. And Fields of Fire, which is good as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see where they've lined up. It'll be interesting to see how they do again. I think they are like one of the 3rd or 4th most popular armies at Sheffield. I don't think it's a game into Orcs at all. Unfortunately, but that's how it goes. So yeah, I think Guard's in a really healthy state. Actually, I think the Codex has done quite well overall. Actually,
where would you put Mechanized Assault then, relative to those detachments?
I think Mechanized Assault has a big problem in that it is legitimately very funky to play. And for example, I thought I had a good list going into Manchester, and I went 3-0-2, and I was trying to play and so I actually think, if this build is good with the 2 Dawn tank commanders and the 3 vanquishers, I actually think it would be just as good as those builds personally.
Nice.
And actually, it's better against combat armies, of course, because you have the reactive move transports, and you're playing transports anyway. So I think it's in a really interesting spot. The beauty of the list that I'm playing is that you have long range firepower, and you have expansion control with good OC. The vanquishers are actually unironically kind of good, because you have a railgun, but then you have sponson options as well. So you can kind of you can take 3 flamers and a railgun, for example, which is perfectly fine to play on your expansion. Or you can play like plasma sponsons, so you're good against maybe Orcs and Marines, and then you've just got railguns on top of that, so it kind of covers those stat checky knight matchups, for example, right? You've got 2 Dawns and 3 railguns. Well, that's pretty good, really. So it's actually kind of a nice combination of it is very Combined Arms, and it's a nice combination of transports plus tanks. And of course, you have the 1 CP 4 rerolls to hit and wound if they're on an objective and you disembarked, which is really the thing you're trying to line up in a lot of games to make happen, which is why you're trying to stage your transports so that you can make your unit, because that kind of makes your shooting unit a melee unit in some regards, right? You kind of stage your transport, move, disembark, and then you can move again with your strat, D6, and then you can shoot onto an objective, which is, that strat is very, very, very good. So, really happy. I'm excited to see how it plays this weekend.
Nice, fantastic. I loved what you did with Guard there. So I want to kind of do a similar thing with Eldar here, because I know I mentioned Ynnari. I'm taking Ynnari. But Ynnari's play rate is dropping off a little bit, even though the win rate is huge. Yeah. The play rate is dropping off a little bit, because I'm loving that Eldar players are experimenting with other detachments in tournaments.
And there is one good detachment out there that has some very good strats, right, Vik?
Actually, multiple, Dave, because we saw Liam using the Harlequins beautifully the other day, but I've really enjoyed experimenting with Seer Council as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Seer Council's one which has gone a little bit under the radar. There's been a few players which have advocated for it right from the very start when the Codex dropped. And I kind of looked at it and was like, whatever, Aspect Warriors are cool, let's go Aspect Host. But actually, there's some really good play in a few of the detachments here. Both Seer Council and Wind Rider Host have seen great results in tournaments, and could be a real answer for Eldar players when Ynnari does get nerfed to some extent. Seer Council is very interesting because it has so many very strong stratagems. And the one in particular that makes the army play completely differently to everything else is that you have the ability to teleport in the movement phase, picking up your unit and put it 9 inches away in the same phase.
That's pretty good.
That's
I
very
like that.
powerful. It doesn't count as a fallback, and being able to
Oh,
kind of escape from combat, shoot, charge, do all of these things is phenomenally powerful in
that's pretty
Eldari.
sick, man. Wow.
Yeah, and not only that, it also allows you to kind of in your compared to the ones where you pick up in the end of the opponent's turn, it gives you
Hmm.
the option of looking at what is the board situation, which of my units am I picking up to get access to a space
Hmm.
after you've kind of advanced, moved things around, drawn your secondaries,
I
all of
see.
these
I
things.
see. Yeah.
So it's an extremely flexible
Is it?
stratagem.
Is it? Oh, that's a stratagem where you just pick a
Yeah,
unit up in the movement phase, and then like Beacon Evangelist, just
that's
teleport a
it.
unit or Veiled Dark. Wow. Okay. And
Yeah,
even if they're in engagement range.
even if they're in engagement range,
Wow,
there's no
that's awesome.
limiter on it. So
Is it just
you
infantry or is it vehicles as well?
It's just infantry, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
so you can't pick up like a brick of wind riders or something, which would be
Okay.
really
Yeah.
nice. But those kind of things are quite fast. But what you can do is pick up 10 Dark Reapers with Morgan Ra, and I'm telling you, that unit
What?
is so good.
Okay. What does Morgan Wright even
So
do?
Morgan has 100 points and has dev wounds on his gun. Makes you take a battle shock test, which is not irrelevant because there is a battle
Yep.
shock stratagem in this detachment as well.
That's spicy.
And because he has dev wounds, you can use the aspect shrine tokens to get you some mortal wounds. Dark
Nice.
Reapers have a problem with consistency of killing things.
Hmm.
You can get around this in Yanari because you can have lethal hits as a stratagem. So you can flip 2 failed hits to a 6, which suddenly means you are killing vehicles
Yeah.
reliably. Morgan Ra does it on the other end, where he gives you 4 automatic dev wounds if you want at the end,
Nice.
which means that you do kill the vehicle or the target you're going for. On
Okay.
top of that, having long range shooting, having units like this which are exposed is a problem in Eldari. But this detachment also has an 18-inch low, not reactive stratagem. Nice.
Nice.
Um,
That's good on Dark Reapers.
it also has a reactive grenade when an opponent moves within 9 inches of you. Nice, and it's on a
Okay.
3+ rather than a 4+, which is lovely.
Okay.
Um,
That's pretty sweet.
yeah, so this detachment also plays into some very cool combos with using Warlock Conclaves and Guardian units.
Well,
Uh,
that's what I was going to say because when I
mm,
played Liam, he was playing the Harlequins. He was playing these units of like, was it 4 warlocks and
mm-hmm,
and a Farseer?
yep.
And those things have a lot of damage. That's a lot. You can teleport those too, right?
So Liam would be playing with a limitation that WTC has, which is that you can't join the Warlock Conclave to a Guardian and then join a Farseer to it.
Yeah,
That's an incorrect ruling, but it's WTC's ruling. So Liam will be
sure.
probably playing under that, but I think everyone else who's not playing under WTC rules can join that little combination you said to a 100-point Storm Guardian unit.
Ooh,
And
nice.
that unit is outrageously powerful.
Because Storm Guardians are good regardless, right? So you
Storm
can
Guardian's
stick in your
solid.
home field and then teleport them after that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Get them into position. Even if they get tagged up, you can just pick them up, put them somewhere
Yeah.
else. You're putting +1 to hit. Eldrad's putting +1 to wound. And all of a
Yep.
sudden, these Warlock Conclave Flamers do loads of damage. You have a
Oof.
stratagem for ignore cover, and any critical wounds are an additional point of AP.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, you have these kind of Guardian bricks that are hard to engage with, hard to shoot, hard to
Hmm.
pin down, which also put out high volume firepower. That's also good into vehicles when you put +1 to wound. So
They're
there's a
also pretty fast with the +2 to move. They can advance, and they're OC2, right? So like they've got good mission play as well, right?
yeah. So I'll be really interested to see how people experiment with Seer Council. Now, that little brick that I talked about is only one particular direction you can go in. There's so many different bricks and building blocks that you can use in Seer Council that's quite effective. And I think there's going to be a lot of viable builds even when Yanari get nerfed. So I'm very excited for people to
Cool.
continue to experiment with that, as long as Yanari's nerfs are to Yanari and not to the
Not to
entire
points.
codex.
Yeah.
If it's to the entire codex, then we may be in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. I quite like the idea of playing like 40 or 50 Storm Guardians. That unit is consistently overperformed every time I see it.
Yeah.
It's deceptively tanky as well.
Yeah, 5 up invul. Yeah,
yeah, 5 up
11
invul.
models. It's nice.
OC2. Yeah, they've got like a 2-win model in there as well, right?
Yeah,
The
with 3 up
platform, is it?
save. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Cool. That's really exciting. I quite like the idea of Seer Council as well, actually. Being able to teleport is really powerful. like teleport out of combat, for example, right?
Yeah, I think it's really
Nice.
strong, and I'm going to be experimenting with that a little bit alongside Yunari while Yunari is still viable. So if you want more discussion on that, we have started talking about it quite a lot on the Discord, so that's a good
Nice.
one, and I'll probably use it in a little game on the Discord at some point.
Sweet. Speaking of the Discord, I've been playing a bit of Deathwatch recently.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've got, in addition to Sheffield, I'm going to play BFS Battle for Salvation in New York, which is the first time I would have traveled to New York. So I'm playing with Team Obliterati, who's one guy was a client of mine, and we didn't have well, my client was a guard player as well. So I was like, look, mate, you go play guard. I'll pick up whatever the team needs. We didn't have a Marine player. Well, we did, but our Marine player was actually wanting to play Votan. So I was like, okay, sure. He's been really loving it too. So he was like, I was like, well, I could play Marines. And, it's been a while since I played Marines and list built with Marines for sure. Because, I mean, so much stuff has happened with Marines, right, over the past, like, a year, really, since the start of the edition. And so I was like, look, I've got a Death Guard collection. Let me get back into it, see what it's like. They had the new codex, well, new index, revamp, whatever it was. And I thought, I'd actually said to Vik a while back, I was like, I think Death Watch are actually pretty good right here, potentially. So I was kind of excited to get back into it. So yeah, I played 2 games now, one in real life and one with Liam. Learning a lot about the codex there. I got given a list to start with that was like just a cookie cutter list, and I'm enjoying the process of optimizing it. Deathwatch have some pretty powerful shooting, to be fair.
Yep.
You play these big Indomitor kill teams, and if you do get the chance to shoot them, like, because they have a stratagem where you can pick up 2 kill teams and they gain deep strike. So I don't think, maybe previously they could get deep strike, but when I first played them at WTC, you would basically teleport your Desolation Marines that only had strat reserve. So now you can teleport these big shooting bricks that have deep strike. So and they get +2 strength if you shoot the closest unit. So now all of a sudden you have like these 4 melter shots that you can get within melter range from deep strike, because you get 6-inch range, +1 AP to the AP5, and they go to strength 11, which is a huge breakpoint. It's basically +2 to wound. And then you get all these bolters that are previously strength 5 go to strength 7. So really, really cool units. They're about 270 points, but they are just all heavy intercessors. So you do get like 30 wounds there as well, toughness 6. So they're actually pretty tanky as well. So I've been really loving those. I've been loving the Deathwatch Terminators as well. They get 3 Cyclone missile launchers, 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shields. Okay, Thunderhammers have been absolutely garbage for me. They are so
It's
bad.
not enough attacks.
Oh my word! But they just like weapon skill 4 as well.
Yeah.
But the Deathwatch Terminators, they naturally reroll charges, which is great of Deep Strike, and they actually have this weird ability where they when they charge, they force a battle shock, and if you're not Chaos or Imperium, you're at -1 as well. So actually, if in the combat games, you can roll charges with these guys, battle shock someone so they can't interrupt, and if they battle shock, they can't interrupt. So that can be quite big as well. So yeah, I've been really loving it. It's been super fun to get back into Marines. Like I'm learning it again, which is a fun experience. I'm doing some painting, so I've been painting. Oh, have I got it? Yeah. Been painting up my.
Nice.
It's not going to do it because of the camera. Maybe there. Been painting up my Terminators. I had them in an old sand color, so I've actually just gone back to grassroots, repainting them black, the classic Deathwatch colors. So it's been fun. Yeah, Deathwatch. I'm looking forward to playing it. It's kind of a good month where I can take the whole month to absorb the meta, the faction, and play it in New York. So I think that'd be really fun. It's a pretty tricksy army. It's obviously it's got a lot of uppy downy potential, and its combat's quite good as well. So super fun army to play. I'm liking it. Fantastic. I don't think it's the most powerful Marine faction, but
a lot of people rate it so highly. I know Art of War seem to think it's really, really good. I think it is good, but it's definitely got a few little weaknesses. It's a very cool army to play, and I know you love your Deathwatch, Dave.
Yeah, it can't fall back and shoot, so it is quite susceptible to being tagged. And it does not have a huge amount of units. So the units that you do have, you do need to use them quite carefully. And you can imagine in an army where you've only got a few units, well, a few big bricks, and they can't fall back and charge, or fall back and shoot, that can be a limitation.
Can they advance and shoot? They can get assault, right?
There's a stratagem for assault and ignore cover, which is obviously great. And there is a Watchmaster which can give you fallback, fallback and advance, shoot and charge.
Got it. So you can do have one. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And he gives you a free strat, but he
Mhm.
is 105 points, and you
Mm.
put him with a 200-point unit. So that's another big 300-point unit, basically.
Mhm. Yep.
So pros and cons to that. But yeah, super fun.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, it probably is worth a little discussion on the meta here. I know
Hmm.
there's been a lot of chat about orcs and their Mordaka detachment,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
the detachment's kind of I mean, the opinions have kind of swung around a little bit. There's a camp which, say that it's clearly this is way too strong,
Sure.
and then there's a camp which are like, actually, you know what? The statistics, for example, this week, they're only a 53% win rate. Like
Yeah.
they're perfectly fine. Are we overreacting to it? What do you think, Dave? Where are you at with this?
Uh, hmm. Okay. I think the army is far too strong and should be nerfed, and I think it is deserving of an emergency nerf. I think the impact it has on the game relative to say something that got emergency nerfed very quickly, like Aquilons. So I think that's maybe a good example to compare it with here. Aquilons were emergency nerfed, I think, within the first 2 or 3 weeks of them being released.
Hmm.
I played them at Pyra. Then there was a super major the next weekend. I didn't even attend because they were way too strong. And
Hmm.
then they were nerfed the week. I think they were nerfed before that event even as well, but they were legal because the rules cut off.
Hmm.
I think that the impact that Mordak has had on the meta is significantly larger than Aquilons, for example.
Hmm.
There were elements of Aquilons which were not fun to play against, and that's a good reason to nerf them. But I think Lethal Intent is very similar, so I was very surprised that didn't get changed from a rules detachment perspective.
Hmm.
So I think it does deserve an emergency nerf. In terms of, as someone who sells things to customers, I think that I often go to tournaments and don't really feel like a valued customer per se, as someone who's buying a product. And I think if you're running a Warhammer tournament, you are effectively selling an experience. You're selling an experience-based product, right? And the vast majority of your customers want to come to your tournament to have a good time and have fun. And if you're running a tournament, say with like 50 or 60 people, maybe, and a lot of your customers that may be coming to play your tournament are having a bad play experience simply
Hmm.
because of one detachment, I think it makes complete sense if you're a TO and you want to make the decision not to allow that to be played, or even house rule it to just sustain one rather than sustain two. I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do, and it's your responsibility as the TO to ensure that of the people playing, they're having the most enjoyable time possible. And
Hmm.
so I think it's perfectly fine, and I think people that kind of criticize TOs for doing that, I don't think often appreciate the monetary side, but the financial and the transactional side of
Hmm.
things that you're actually dealing with people that are customers as well. So I think that I support people doing that, and I think it's a good way to raise awareness about an issue there, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
It's a really interesting discussion. I mean, I've got two tournaments coming up. I've got Sheffield, where
Hmm.
Mordaka is allowed, and then I've got the Birmingham Glasshammer tournament, where they've specifically said that Mordaka is banned at the event.
Okay.
So it's very interesting for myself to look at what I'm more excited about.
Mm.
Um, and it's a tricky one because I'm obviously not an orc player, despite having
Mm.
30 looters. I'm not an orc player, but but even if I was an orc player, I think the best outcome here for orc players out there is that Mordaka does get nerfed with an emergency nerf, and the whole faction ends up surviving because of it. Because I
Yes.
think orcs are in actually a very good position, even
Hmm.
outside Mordaka, where they comfortably sit in an A tier of armies where they're able to compete.
Yep.
With multiple detachments, I think tactical is still very good. I think Warhorde is
Hmm.
brilliant as well.
I think Warhorde's probably a bit better than Tactical nowadays.
Yeah.
Tactical took quite a big nerf.
Mhm.
So yeah, sorry to interrupt. Go
Yeah,
on.
no worries. So I think, I, I think this kind of banning of Mordaka is quite a good thing, and I would actually have loved it if the same kind of conversation happened with Yanari,
Hmm.
but it sounds like people are not really considering Yanari for an emergency nerf now. So GW responds very well to community outcry about these things,
Hmm.
and I think we're more likely to see Yanari changes probably come in the data slate and emergency nerfs come now
I
for
see. Yeah.
Mordaka.
I would have thought the emergency nerfs would have come by now, though, if I'm being honest. If
Actually,
not
maybe you've
this
got a
week.
point.
So I'm a little bit skeptical, to be honest
Oh
with you.
no.
If I was a TO, actually, what I would have done
Hmm.
is now, because I just thought about it now, I would have just house ruled it to sustain 1.
Yeah.
So if you want to come play the new detachment, absolutely fine. That's great. Awesome. Just emergency nerf it from sustain 2 to sustain 1. That's just a raw power cut on the whole army right there. And I think maybe that's the more nuanced way to do it. But I also appreciate as a TO, it's difficult to make rules changes. But so it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I mean, I'm not particularly for TOs making changes to rules.
Yeah, okay.
I'm obviously, I'm sure everyone will be much happier if GW actively changes these things rather than TOs getting involved. There's also a very big divide in the sentiment that top players have and the general community has. I think pretty much any top player that you ask will not tell you that more Dakka is fine. That
Yeah.
every single one will look at those rules of played on the board and realize this is clearly broken from experience.
Yeah.
And it's very telling for me that Manny took Mordaka to a tournament, is not taking it to Sheffield, so he's taking Blood Angels because he said it's too strong, and he's banned it for his tournament. So it's very those are the rare situations where a top player and a TO kind of overlap a little bit, and I would be very concerned to if it was a wider thing that TOs decide, oh, you know what, I don't like mechanized assault. So there you go. In this tournament, your Tauroxes are 85 points rather than 65 points.
Okay,
That's the level of slippery slope I don't want to go down.
Okay.
But a small number of people identifying very, very broken things, be that release Eldar, we had a tournament ban it. Release Votan, we had a lot of discussions start with that, and tournaments banning it in Germany before it even released.
Well, it got changed before it is even released as well.
Absolutely. All of these things that catch the one or two extremely broken things, I think is actually a positive direction. It's a question mark where the line is drawn and how slippery the slope is that we go down. But I don't think more Dakka is in an acceptable position for the meta when actually played correctly. Sorry, Dave, I'm talking for ages. One more point here.
I completely agree with you.
Which is that there's been a lot of discussion going on because at Adepticon, Folger Piles.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I think his name is Folger Piles. Yes,
Folger Piles, brilliant player, number 2 in ELO, something like that.
Folger Piles also beat John Lennon in WCW as well.
Yes, there you go. So he's the one who won, didn't he?
Yes.
There you go. So brilliant player. 2 of his games. So he played against Mordaka 3 times with Ynnari. Now I can tell you as an Eldar player that game is not good for Ynnari because you die in the shooting phase and the fight phase, and there's too much stuff. You can kill half of the Mordaka army, and it should just absolutely shred you at equal skill level. 2 of his games are on streaming platforms. One on Warhammer, on the actual Warhammer Twitch, and one on Wargames Live. I would recommend any Eldar players to actually go and watch that game because he is a brilliant player. He is so incredibly solid with every single one of his moves. 1 or 2 mistakes here and there, but he's super tired. He played the team tournament as well, but pretty much perfect play. His Orc opponents did not play perfectly. There was a key moment. I watched this in the top 8 game where the Orc player charged 3 units, 3 Orc Nob units who have 2 wounds each, into the Yvrain 10 Incubi brick, which was full strength. The Yvain Incubi brick has fights first. 90% of the Orcs died here. I cannot... literally, the only way you can lose that game is if you charge multiple units into the Incubi brick. But if any Orc unit looks at that Incubi brick in the shooting phase, the entire unit is wiped. So for context, I'm going to tell you that Ynnari, while being incredibly strong, is not in the league of Mordaka at equal skill level.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And also the really broken stuff has no or very few bad matchups. Ynnari doesn't sit in that category, but Mordaka absolutely does. It doesn't actually have a bad matchup. So I would tell people on Reddit, Ynnari is not the counter to Orcs. Just because this brilliant player had a skill advantage against some Mordaka players at Adepticon.
You mean the people that went and brought an entirely new orc army to play Adepticon and probably had 3 practice games going into the
Oh
tournament?
man. Yeah, I mean,
Like for example, if you looked at the which tournament was it that played recently at UK?
I
Where
know which
Brian
one.
and Manny were playing. South Coast Major,
South
Super
Coast, yeah.
Major.
Mhm.
If you look at that, the skill level of players that were playing Mordaka there were dramatically. They were good players, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
no surprise that those players playing it correctly with good builds smashed everyone.
I mean, I want to say, okay, like obviously this orc player has come to the top 8 of Adepticon. He's not going to
Sure,
be a
yeah.
bad player, and his name I've heard before as well. So he's clearly a good player, but I just want people to note that there was a terminal mistake in that game, which is why the Yunari won.
Terminal. I'm sure whoever, I don't know their name, but I'm sure they won't be disagreeing. And we're not trying to bring this person down. It's more an example point. I think I actually saw some results of Mordaka go 0-6 on the weekend, and actually I looked at the list because this is a bit of a guard effect as well, right? You know, you're like, well, how could guard be the best army in the game, but people go 0-6 at it, but some of these builds are legitimately awful. Like, 1 unit of looters, 0 tank busters, like, okay, so it's an interesting discussion, and it's a good example of if you look at good players using not even just the best players. If you just look at good players playing good builds and not making absolutely terminal mistakes, it significantly overperforms as to whether or not they would be on another faction that they previously played. And I think that's a good indicator. Yeah, I've seen some players swap to this and do significantly better than I had ever seen them do before, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is past the line of broken in my opinion, and
Dakka.
I haven't seen any other experienced top player say otherwise.
You know what? A big Chad move, an absolute god gamer move from GW would be to rename the detachment Less Dakka and just make it Sustain 1.
Sustain -1.
Less Dakka. Just rename it. I'm playing less Dakka, mate. Less Dakka. Slightly less Dakka.
Man.
Still quite a bit of Dakka. They should rename the detachment that. I would just be so good.
Just a stratagem, a little more Dakka.
A little more Dakka. Oh god! There's so many good things they could do there on that.
Yeah,
fantastic. Let's hope so I was going to ask you a question because previously when the balanced data slate came out, you gave it a slight fail. Was it a slight fail? Maybe.
Yeah, I only gave it a small fail.
Small fail. What are your thoughts after we're seeing like a couple of weeks in retrospective? Because I think I gave it a fail, but it's
right. So I think the game has a very high chance of hitting the best Warhammer has ever been at the moment. Because I think if we do a tier list, everyone loves a tier list. I think the amount of armies that are sitting in an A tier at the moment is about 50, even more than 50% of the total number of factions in the game.
Okay.
Who all have the potential to play against each other in a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors kind of fashion, which I think is super interesting. Even armies that, you could say are slightly more towards the top end of the A tier, like Marines, Yunari, something like that. I think they have games where you'd see like Chaos Knights will, have an advantageous match into Yunari. Maybe Marines can't get through Custodes with their new Lions detachment. I think there's a lot of armies there that can play against each other for tournament wins and at all levels of competitive play. And if more Dakka is brought back down into the A tier, so orcs are brought down into the A tier with where their detachments are currently outside more Dakka, I think you have a situation where the game is going to be in a fantastic flux of balance. And
I agree.
It's really easy from that point to bring up the armies which are below that level into the A tier rather than constantly having to fight up and down between these levels.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave?
I would just completely agree with what you said. I was watching the Out of War tier list, and they put Guard as the second best army in the game. I'm not quite sure that's true, personally. So it'd be interesting to see where everything lies at. But actually, my initial reaction was that if 50% of the armies sit in A tier, it's probably the fact that A tier is just a new B tier, really, isn't it?
Yeah, or everything is good.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Well, I mean, B tier doesn't mean it's bad. I just meant that it's all kind of relative. The way that I see it, it's all kind of relative, which is why I like
Yeah.
to have. If you just put everything in A tier, there's only one tier above that, and there's
Mm,
4 tiers below that, right? So I think if you put most of the stuff in B tier, then you can say, well, there is top of B tier is really A tier, right?
mm.
And then the bottom of B tier is like obviously that fishes out B tier basically.
Yeah, I like looking at so relative tier lists are good as well.
Mm.
Like I really enjoy doing the aspect warrior tier list and relatively ranking them
Yeah,
against each other. But actually, a full competitive meta tier list is quite nice to look at it as what can compete at a
yeah.
competitive level. And I think at the moment, if we say A tier is that, I think we've got everyone in there. And if someone's putting guard as the second best army in the game, actually there are so many things that can beat guard as well,
Yeah,
which also
sure.
sit in the A tier. I think that
Mm.
having that little kind of selection of armies which can be competitively viable is something we haven't had enough of in the competitive meta, but we're getting more of more recently.
Yeah, nice. So I was
Mhm.
going to actually segue this into Emperor's Children because you've been
Oh,
playing that quite a bit, right?
I've been playing that a
So
lot, Dave.
what are your thoughts? Because Boris from our team has also been playing it quite a lot. And one thing I've noticed
Mm,
is that you both have been on this similar path, right? You've both
mhm,
kind of gone on, well, we should try this build, try that, and then, oh, this isn't good. I'm kind of getting crushed. This army's like, it's a solid like
mhm.
B tier army, but there was this trough, but it's only kind of gone up since then, right? Like
This is just
I think,
Boris, though. Boris always follows this journey. Like, to be fair, I thought like from the first couple of games I played with Emperor's Children, they look better than they are on paper. On paper, you can look at the data sheets, everything, AP1 everywhere, and be like, this army
hmm,
doesn't do any damage. This army is literally just a bunch of power armor guys that's just going to implode. The
hmm,
game's so lethal. How does this army ever stage and survive?
hmm,
But then you put it on the board, you see the power of having full army advance and charge, full army fall back, charge, and shoot as well with everything. And you
hmm,
realize, hold on a second, you can continue to apply momentum all game with this army in a
yep,
way that doesn't feel like any other army.
hmm.
And I think Emperor's Children are very strong, personally.
Very strong.
I think they're
Best
very
unit
strong.
in the Codex. I already know what you're going to say, but
Oh my god, the Demon Prince with
the
wings.
Demon Prince,
Oh my
so
god, I
good.
love that data sheet.
How
So,
easy is it to just rapid ingress that guy? Even if he's like in the middle
yeah,
of nowhere and can get shot, you're just like, mate, I've got a 2-up save, I can AOC and I'm -1 damage. So
yeah,
shoot your big thing at me, like shoot your dawn at me with your oppressor cannon. I'm gonna take like 4 damage and then I'm just gonna like run at you like impact mortal. So
yeah,
good. It's
yeah.
good that he's durable. Like if he wasn't durable,
Mhm.
it'd be so much worse. But you can rapid ingress him super aggressively.
Yeah, I know. It's really interesting. You can just happily play them on the board, but they have deep strike
Mm.
built in for the rapid ingress
Yep.
plays,
I mean they're
which is
fast as
nice.
well. Yeah.
They have 14-inch move.
Yeah.
And the army also ramps up in a very interesting way. I'm talking specifically about Kotri here, which I
Mm.
think is the best detachment, because it has defensive stratagems, but also your output ramps up as the game goes
Yeah.
on.
Access
Once
to Armor of
you
Contempt is pretty big as well, right?
I mean, Armor of Contempt, but not just that, Dave. The big one is that you get a 4 of Feel No Pain against mortals, which is
Ah, yeah.
also a 6 plus against all damage for the entire
And yeah,
phase.
yeah. So actually, that's really good on Demon Princes, right?
Yeah,
You
really
can't grenade
powerful.
tank shock them away and stuff.
Exactly. Four plus more, Feel No Pain is so tasty because you just need those guys to live with 1 or 2 wounds and they're still doing nonsense as the game goes on. But once you get reroll ones to hit, wound, sustained, lethal, all of these things, just a couple of Demon Princes can almost table an entire army.
Hmm.
Because all of a sudden, each turn you can pick up 4 units or something
Yeah.
crazy with those 2 guys. So the army is incredibly fun to use. It's not mentally taxing, but it's very rewarding when you make the correct decisions.
Mm.
Um, it's not insurmountable though, is what I would say. I
Hmm.
have a feeling that you're going to see some good results with Emperor's Children early
Yeah.
on, but if they do become significant enough in the meta, they have a number of weaknesses which are you can play around because
Hmm.
they're extreme. What I found is they're extremely susceptible to being move blocked on
Mm.
their
True.
infractor units. They're also extremely susceptible in coterie to you denying them getting the first pledge too early, so
Okay.
they don't have their reroll ones to hit until their go turn. If you
And
create
you
a
actually mentioned that you said that in the team chat a while back. Is that if you forego even doing a secondary, if
Mhm.
you're going to deny that turn 1 pledge, right?
Yeah,
which is just reroll ones to hit. If they kill anything, they just the whole army gets reroll ones to hit.
yeah, absolutely. If you could cleanse the middle objective for another 3 points or something, another 2 points, do not cleanse that middle objective, because them getting reroll ones to hit, which then moves them closer to reroll ones to wound, is an incredible multiplier of their damage output. But if they don't have it, I found that Emperor's Children can really fluff their go turns, because your damage output falls off a cliff. If you don't have that, you can make one of your Infractor units have full rerolls to hit, and then they're inbuilt rerolls to wound. But outside of that, the rest of the army is not going to be able to push alongside this Infractor unit. So what Emperor's Children really want is to skirmish, throw away their very expensive kind of 160 point piece to just kill your chaff piece, your 55 point chaff piece, force you to then come and kill this unit, at which point it's go turn.
Yeah.
That's the way that Emperor's Children want to play, and if you deny them that, it's much harder for them. So building in move blocks, in the mid game is extremely powerful. Denying them their pledges, extremely powerful, and then just having profiles which are able to kill marine bodies really well, which is very easy to achieve, and also being able to have some kind of melter in your army to kill demon princes.
Yeah,
means
demon princes are toughness 9, right?
Their toughness 9, yeah.
Yeah,
they
so
are.
you do wound them on 4s on the multi-melters. So if you get within multi-melter range, yeah, they can, they fail 2 saves, basically dead demon prince, but they do get a lot of value very quickly, those demon princes, I find, because the impact mortals is very, very powerful. Like, by the way, that's the exact same stratagem that Crusher Stampede had.
You got it on the data sheet.
It's not even a stratagem, it's on the data sheet. And
Such
they can fall back and do it.
Yeah,
it's
phenomenal, and the army is well designed. Let's see if it gets any tweaks, because there are some units that are. I'd say the Demon Prince is maybe like 15 points too cheap.
It is cool seeing the Demon Prince on the table, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I know
they are a cool model, and the new ones look really, really awesome as well. So
they've just got the points wrong, because the walking one is more expensive than the flying one. So if they just swap the points around on those, I think it'd be interesting. And Fulgrim is like 100 points overpriced at the moment. So we'll see what they do with that. But I hope they do tweak rather than just buff, because I think there is a risk they just buff Emperor's Children alone. Which I don't want to see that army be the best army in the game, because that is a sad outcome. I
can imagine that army being really hard to deal with if it just gets a little bit too much stuff.
Yeah, it can't have one more unit than it has at the moment.
Yeah, the rhinos in there are very, 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 very good as well.
I mean, rhinos are just good, Dave.
They are good, but the Emperor's Children rhinos are exceptionally good as well.
Rhinos are nuts. But yeah, obviously the Emperor's Children one, being able to advance, disembark your unit, and then the rhino's still able to charge and do things is kind of nice.
It's cool. But I think the army's really cool, actually, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, super fun.
What I was going to do is I was going to jump over to some... Well, I guess, before we go on to this, what do you think about Ynnari? Do you think there's any emergency changes that need to happen there?
Yeah, so Ynnari is an interesting one, because they have a reroll ones to hit stratagem. Which is quite important, because the reroll ones to hit in melee is something that activates your other melee units. So I think even let's pretend Lethal Intent didn't exist.
Okay.
I still think Ynnari is good. It starts to go on par with the middle level of detachments. So if I was going to have my way, I would actually be extremely harsh with Lethal Intent and very kind to the rest of the codex. And I would make it so that Lethal Intent has no ability to impact primary in the game, primary scoring, because Ynnari also has the sticky objectives. Those are the two important things. It has the sticky on death, and it has the reroll ones to hit in combat.
So you could change it so that you cannot Lethal Intent and end your movement on an objective.
Well, what I would like to see is, there's some more detachments, and Harlequins, for example, have this thing where they can do a 6-inch heroic intervention, even if an enemy unit hasn't charged. I think that fits Ynnari a little bit better. If one of your units dies in the shooting phase, you can then do a 6-inch heroic intervention. That removes a lot of the plays which Lethal Intent does.
That's
but
cool. Yeah.
it also still fits into Yanari being an aggressive melee-based army.
Yep.
So
That is a lethal intent.
I would like to see them come up with something creative like that rather than just going, okay, you can now do a 6-inch move. I still think the 6-inch move is too strong,
Yeah,
personally.
I mean, if all you're trying to do is jump on the middle objective or something like that, doesn't matter if you move six
Yeah.
inches or 12 inches realistically, right?
I think if they do the 6-inch move, it's going to come hand in hand with them putting the points up across multiple units here.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if they completely gut it and remove it as an ability to score primary, I think that brings Yanari in line,
Yep. I
while
think
still
I
keeping the flavor.
completely agree. I think it would be a huge miss if they put points up on the army. Actually, a
Yeah,
huge miss.
the one unit they missed was the Howling Banshee and the Autarch, in my opinion, which I think is
Okay.
is slightly undercosted.
Really? Okay.
It's just slightly, if I was going to put anything up, it would be that combination, even 5 points on the Autarch, 10 points on the Autarch, something like that. But there are other units, the War Walker, the Fire
Yeah.
Prism, which are overcosted for what they do at the moment, but allow the army to play in a different way. The Wave Serpent shouldn't be 125, in my opinion. That's too expensive for a transport, and again, limits the way that the army plays. So I think there's some tweaking you could do inside Eldar, but it's so tough to do that with a community sentiment and also being scared of making the army too strong. But I would personally love to see Lethal Intent completely gutted and just don't touch anything else in the army. And I think you bring Eldar right down into, playing in the A tier, but not being oppressive or too annoying to play.
Nice. Cool. So I was just going to recap really quickly here. We've got the Sheffield GT, which you're playing. And I was going to look at the meta. I've got an image of the meta and the share.
Oh, have you? What's the
got-
faction share?
Okay, so we've got. What do you think the most popular army is?
Ooh, it's Space Marine split up.
Okay, not counting Space Marine split up. You've got 3 to choose from here because there's 3 first equal.
Well, you already mentioned Guard was number 3.
Okay, well, Guard is number 3 because there's 3 first equals. As in, like, Guard is position 3, but there's 3 that have the exact same player count.
Really? So Eldari? Is Eldari one of them?
No.
Eldari's dropped down. How interesting. Very interesting. Okay, how about Necrons?
No.
Okay.
Necron's actually quite unpopular this event.
Are Orcs really up there?
Orcs is up, yes. So one of the first equal most played armies is Orcs. Yep.
Okay, so we've got Orcs, Guard, and what's the last one, Dave?
No. Oh, so let me clarify. Custodes, Orcs, and Tyranids all have 16 players, which is the most popular.
Orcs, and Tyranids. I see.
Tyranids
Okay.
is surprising.
So there's
but Custodes and Orcs, I think, have been proven to be really popular, and obviously have had the new detachment this month as well, right?
I mean, I kind of hedged my bets a little bit that Custodes would be very popular because they are very popular whenever they're interesting or good.
You got Dark Reapers, man.
So I got 20 Dark Reapers. So
and then just below that at 15 players, we have Eldari. So
okay, so Eldari
second tied, whatever, most popular. And then we've got Guard on 14, so one just below that. Chaos Demons on 14. I would have thought actually there'd be a bit more Chaos Demons actually.
14 is a lot, man. That's
I guess wonder how that sits compared to the last one. But Shadow Legion, I've played a few games of and it has been really fun as well.
Really good.
Then we've got Imperial Knights at 12 players. So actually that's a big come up there. Chaos Knights with 11 players. So both the Knight factions even getting more popular in the UK here as well. And then randomly World Eaters with 11 players. So, I think that top faction cut was a couple of surprises for me. Obviously, the Marine super faction is the largest. 5 GSC players is actually kind of surprising. 3,000 Suns players. This is out of 207 players, for example. 1 Deathwatch player. And Necron's only 9 players, which is a bit surprising given the fact that Necrons are they're quite popular.
I mean, it's quite interesting to see both Josh Roberts and Manny both go onto Blood Angels rather than playing,
playing Blood Angels. That's cool.
And Nathan Roberts is playing Chaos Demons, which fits his
awesome.
factions.
Oh, I should check out what Nathan's playing. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see. The only kind of person playing more Dakka that you would kind of have heard of would be Ben Jones, is still playing Mordaka after winning South Coast Major. He's running it again. But actually, Mordaka, that's kind of light on Mordaka, even though it's number 1 there.
That is a little light. Just a garnishing of Mordaka. Yeah.
So,
just a garnishing of Dakka.
So it'll be really interesting to see if Ben can do it again.
I do think it's interesting looking at the psychology of you know, why do you go to a tournament to play? Do you go there to win the tournament and whatever comes with that, which for those that don't know is basically nothing, or do you go there to have fun and play the army that you want to play and do your thing, right? So it's interesting that some players that have obviously played previously more Dakka have either jumped off that for various reasons. Maybe they just don't want to play it. It's too strong. And people that are not attending, for example. I'm not going to this tournament, and I didn't play the previous tournament as well, because to be honest with you, I don't want to play against that either.
Yeah.
Like, would I go to play South Coast with Manny and Brian and Ben all playing Mordaka in a basically unwinnable matchup?
It's unwinnable, yeah.
Why would you even go and play? So I'm someone directly affected by that, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I actually would feel happier playing Ynnari into Mordaka than I would playing God, to be honest.
Right, exactly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At least there is a world where I can win that game. If the stars align, my opponent makes a mistake, I can win that game. I could find a path. But I would much rather be playing Ynnari than Guard on that one.
Yes, Guard is like, well, if you're somewhere on the board that's relative to any objective, you're basically dead.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's interesting. What I thought I'd do is I asked in the Discord when we started recording, if anyone had any questions. So should I just rattle through a quick
we got some. Lovely.
Yeah, we got lots, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
Your opinion about banning factions. I think we've both covered that. Dora is also asking, would love to hear predictions, theories about codexes, Thousand Sons, Death Guard, and World Eaters about rules detachments.
We're getting all 4 legions, aren't we? Pretty much at the same time. That's really interesting.
That is cool because Vik, are you a fan of how they've changed demons now? Because obviously in 9th edition we had demons, and at the beginning of 10th edition with the index, we had demons done there, right? Yep. So what do you think about, where do you sit on the fence in terms of, I guess Emperor's Children had Slanesh, right? Do you like that way, or would you prefer to have demons have an independent codex and then be allowed points to bring in?
Gosh, a codex. I mean, I'm guessing they're going to keep this index. Is that right? And not get a codex? What they have demons at the moment?
Yeah, well,
that will still continue, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it's perfectly fine to leave them at index level if they really want to make sure that demons are an AOS thing rather than
Seems a bit of a shame.
I know, because demons are popular, and
demons are cool, man.
It could really be something they change, because they were planning on pretty much removing Death Watch as anything but an ally, but now they have an index. So Shadow Legion is an example of a very well done chaos soupy kind of army.
I think that might be one of the coolest detachments that's come out in quite a long time.
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
It's very balanced. It's like, it's good, but it's actually quite balanced. You know, there's like pros and cons to whatever build you're going to go for. You're like, well, do you play the Fade Thirsted? And you're like, well, it's pretty expensive and it's kind of unreliable. Do you play the Blood Crushers with Fade? But like, well, you can get tagged down and stuff like that, you know. So like the game that we played, for example. So I quite like that. But sorry, I interrupt again.
No. I agree with what you said there. I think it's I'd be interested to follow the path that demons take in 40k. I have no problem with them being incorporated into these codexes as one of the detachments, and that's fine. It doesn't even matter if the detachment is particularly good, but as long as they always have some kind of index level rules, I think that's perfectly fine.
For playing pure demons.
For playing pure demons.
100% agree. I think that's cool. What were your thoughts on the new Thousand Sons model?
Oh,
controversial one.
I'm the only one who likes it, apparently. I think it's really cool because I think once you get that in a slightly different color. So this is the little automaton kind of weird Egyptian-looking robot.
Kind of robot thing.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see how the rules on that will kind of work to have a dedicated shooting unit. I mean, it's impossible. That's not actually what Thousand Sons probably need, is a shooting unit. They probably could have done with those robots having swords, you know.
Swords.
Yeah, sword and a shield would have been better, but
Lich Guard of Thousand Sons,
yeah, a super tanky kind of robot unit would have been good for Thousand Sons, but that particular thing is almost definitely going to be overcosted and too fragile. It's basically a Terminator, isn't it? So we'll see.
Dude, I hope Terminators are good in the new codex. Scarab Occult Terminators, they're pretty cool.
They're very
I hope
cool.
they're cool.
Thousand Sons have I mean, Emperor's Children is an example of how you can take a very small number of data sheets and make it fit very beautifully into what the army wants to do. I hope they achieve the same thing with Thousand Sons,
Yep.
and give people options, just a couple more options on what they want to build.
Yeah, I think Death Guard could come out quite strong there because I think that some of the Nurgle data sheets are quite good as well. Although I'm catching myself as I'm saying that the Nurgle data sheets, like actually Rodigus is pretty good, but the Nurgle Demon Detachment is good mainly because of the strats enhancements are really really powerful. The data sheets themselves are actually not that good. Nice. Well, I'm just going to carry on. We're going to. Devin has a question. When are GW going to hire real game designers by this point? I would. I think that's a little bit harsh. I think they do have good game designers at the moment. I think GW is, as someone who's completely not in it at all, I think it's probably a huge business in terms of it's a monolithic, enormous legacy type business. I think there's a lot of business practices that probably end up hindering them being able to make changes as fast as possible there. Then got a question from Bamos. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Thoughts on a Fireside Community League? You know,
On a league, Dave, you've wanted this from the start, mate, haven't you?
Let us know in the comments below if you would be interested to join the Discord if we had a league. Let me know if you would join the Discord just to play the league, and we could have like a running tally leaderboard, internal ELO league or something like that, whatever. Or let us know how you'd want to do it. Then okay, I wouldn't be against playing like an RTT in one day, where you just like sit down and you play 3 TTS games on Sunday. You know. So anyway, let us know down in the comments below.
That could be quite cool.
You know, so I would rather do one day where I just play rather than it be like 2 weeks, you know, and whatever like that.
What I really liked was, you know, we played those couple of games yesterday, those games, and so many people like jumped in and were watching and then discussing it after the game. I think that's really powerful. So I would really encourage people, you know, all the Phoenix Lord members who are on the Discord to do their practice games on TTS. Ask for a game, because I think when someone asks for a game, you'll get a game. So that growing that side of things could be very powerful. So
and we've got a good community vibe as well. And like Liam, like I was chatting to Liam after the game. Of course, I think we chatted for like 10 or 15 minutes. You know, about unit compositions, how we could have done different plays, and we had a super interesting game. So that was very valuable for me, of course. Then we've got Rusty. Have you had any thoughts on list building biases through personal experiences? Off the top of my head, I think I heard about John Lennon's list, minimum scoring pieces. He's able to perform with no redundancy. I guess, do you have any list building biases, Vic?
Yeah, I've noticed over time certain things which work better for me, and certain list elements, when they're in, I seem to perform better than when they're not in. And
this is probably a great example of your work with Eldari, right? Recently, I feel, right?
But it's just everything. When I look back at the moments where I've really done better in 40K, it's always been when I've had some long range shooting in the army. Like if I have even a few pieces which are proper long range shooting that I can lean on, you know, coming out of reserves, finding the angles, I always seem to feel more comfortable, but also do better when I have the solution to something that's so tough that I can't deal with unless I shoot it. And there's a thing about shooting, especially long range shooting, where you don't have an element of failure in the charge bit.
Sure,
I feel like anytime I need to make a 5-inch charge, I will roll a 4. It's guaranteed. But you can't do that when you're shooting, because I'm going to be 48 inches away from you. So, yeah. What about you, Dave?
Man. I feel like I've played a super varied amount of this, actually. Like I've played mono shooting, obviously a lot with guard, basically. But then I've played like the 18 Bilgrim list. I played Death Watch, played Demons. List biases. I just have an absolute bias against enhancements. I hate enhancements. Oh my word! I was this close to cutting Tome of Ectoclades, which is the 25-point enhancements for a once per game second Oath of Moments, because I like to have more stuff. So like I hate enhancements. That's the thing. That's the bias that I have. I almost never play with them.
Actually,
oh God, I hate them.
Really interesting you say that, because I've historically had a bias against brick units. But when I think about it, it's only some brick units. I think Morven Val's unit unit was a big one that separated the entire community.
I seem to remember you doing pretty well with 10 Emperor's Children
Right.
Terminators.
Right,
Yeah.
people forget that. So,
I remember that.
and now I've got a brick of 10 incubi with the variant, so things are changing. But yeah, and how many units of 10 swooping hawks did I run? So there you go. Maybe
Exactly.
that's not a bias, but sometimes there's some very overpriced, fragile bricks,
Yep.
which I don't like, and Morven Val's unit was one of them. But now it's about the only thing that really works in Sisters, so you have to
Yeah.
run it.
Yeah, and obviously we're playing different editions as well, which just changed a lot about how the game is played. Obviously, so I think people have. I like to personally list build with roles. That is my probably internal bias. I categorize and bucket everything into roles, and I like to build it out like that. A very very structured approach.
Yep.
And Matt Vic asks, was there anything that you would improve in the new mission pack? If we're hoping to see a new mission pack, things that you would change in Prior Nexus? Any
Yeah.
secondaries that strike out to you?
I mean, I personally find that some of the secondaries are weirdly balanced here. Like there's such a discrepancy between getting extend battle lines and containment
Yeah.
compared to some of the other secondaries that there's so much luck involved in the drawing. I would love it if the points were kind of evened out so that any secondary you draw, as long as you complete it, you're kind of earning a similar amount of points with a similar level of investment. Sure, there's a little bit of are you in the right place at the right time? I don't mind that. But then, you hit Mark for Death or Overwhelming Force on turn one, and it's kind of like those ones don't allow you to redraw. Really, is it the same as hitting the difference between hitting extend battle lines early and
It's
hitting
huge,
Mark for
yeah.
Death early is huge. It's game
Or
warpingly huge.
yeah, or just hitting cleanse recover assets on turn 3 when you need to shoot and activate everything. It's just
One thing I really enjoyed about AOS actually was that the secondaries were easy to do and they made the game happen.
I see, right, yep.
They kind of forced you into positions where your opponent can engage you.
Yep.
With a little bit of killing, but you kind of choose your secondaries in that, so that's a little different. So you could kind of always achieve them and kind of kept the game moving forward and you doing things. 40k sometimes feels like you get these jarring moments where, despite you having a full army available to do stuff, your secondaries are just like, what the hell? That's such a weird draw.
Would you be against having faction-specific secondary cards that you could add to your deck?
Only because I don't trust the balance.
Okay, let's say hypothetically they're done well.
Yeah,
I actually think faction
phenomenal.
secondaries were quite a good part of the previous edition.
Yeah, it's just
we had our points.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think. Okay. Here's the thing. If you made faction secondary cards and then added them to the deck of cards, then I think that would help balance that problem, even if they were very strong, right? It's not like a guarantee you get them. Where in 9th edition, you could build your entire army around 3 faction secondaries. So in 9th edition, you could only do your faction secondaries, which was obviously very strong. And we had periods where that was way too strong, like Necrons, and the guard ones were really good there. But if they were a smaller part of a larger combination of secondaries, I think that would help balance it out.
I think so. Yeah, that's actually really fair. But I agree with you. That's on the secondary side. On the primary side, I would love to see more missions use 5-10 format rather than anything else. I think the missions that use 5 for scoring 1 second for one primary and 10 for the second one are universally better in the format, personally.
Nice. Let's carry on. We've got a question from Dave who asks, do you think GW will keep releasing new detachments every quarter, or would you prefer ongoing balance patches for new detachments for Christmas? So I guess, do you want new detachments in Christmas or every quarter? I like new detachments. I think just keep releasing them every quarter. I think that's a win.
Yeah.
Slam dunk.
Whatever they do with new detachments, just they are not getting it right, I think, with the balance on them.
Yeah.
Just like GW use one more cycle, one more playtest cycle. Whatever you do with the codexes, because the codexes are actually really good, just do the same thing with the detachments. Or make them a little weaker, and then balance them back up. But it's really disheartening when the detachments are too strong. Saying that, it's very interesting that we are getting these more Dakka bans. So maybe being able to ban broken detachments is a little easier.
Yep. Nice. That's a good
Yep.
solution. Last question from Clayson. How do you best make up for going first? I feel like there's a huge advantage to going second at the moment. Okay, interesting. How do you know when you've found your play style, and how do you find it? So two questions there, and he's given an example. I feel more comfortable reacting to my opponent rather than playing proactively, but is that just a flaw in my play style, especially in the context of seeing someone like Liam play? I'll take this one.
Hmm.
Going first is it is very crucial to evaluate the game completely differently when you go first versus when you go second. When you go first, in my head, as soon as I go first, I go, well, I'm going to be down end of game scoring. Okay, so that means I need to have a more proactive and aggressive approach to holding expansion objectives, right? So primarily, when you go first, you're going to be a more aggressive player, or you're going to have more aggressive macro strategy than if you go second, right? And the worst thing you can do, and I'm sure Vic has played against games like this as well, the worst thing you can do is go first and play passively. Because all your opponent has to do is match your tempo and play the same passivity towards you and then beat you with end game scoring. And so that's what you don't want to do. If you do go first, say you're playing guard, for example, you want to take as much board control as possible and then be able to hit angles that your opponent is going to stage into on their first turn. That's how you really squeeze people out of the board. If you and a big part of this is like looking at critical terrain pieces in the terrain format that you're playing and thinking, well, if my opponent goes first, well, say I go first, well, my opponent can stage into this ruin, so I need to be able to shoot into that ruin if I go on my second turn. It's really, really important. Even just going to your table and looking, where can my opponent stage, then drawing a tape measure line back from your maximum movement so you can see into that ruin will change completely how you will play the game,
Hmm.
because you need to be proactive rather than reactive. And even if you go second, you still need to be proactive there. So that's a huge part. So control the board if you go first. Like force your opponent to come out and play, because if you don't force your opponent to come out and play, they're going to play passively. So a way that you can force your opponent to come out and play if you go first is by, I don't know, putting a cheap thing on an objective, right? Playing both expansions at the same time, for example, right? Or playing the middle plus your expansion
Hmm.
with a cheap unit. Get the game started, because you're going to have your whole army stage to counter shoot or counter charge whatever they put out there. So you need to leverage the fact that you're going to have much better positioning.
One interesting mental exercise, because I like going first. I tend to, even though on scoring second is tends to be better, but going first, what I would do is look at your map or your terrain setup, ideally on TTS, and just put your deployment zone 10 inches further up the board, and
Yeah, that's
see
good.
see how many more spaces you have to stage in and deploy into if you have that, and that is the freedom of going first in the game.
Exactly.
That's a way of making it look more positive for you.
Yep. How do you know when you found your playstyle? That's a good question. What do you think, Vic?
There's a comfort. There's a moment where you find an army that really suits you, and then there'll be any situation on the board. You'll be like, you know what? I got something that can deal with that. I've got something that can answer that. And I think in terms of play style, it's more about finding list archetype than play style.
Yep.
Nowadays, the way the modern game is in 40K is that people are so good at the game that you need to be versatile, and you don't fit into pockets of I'm a defensive player, I'm an aggressive player.
Yep.
You fit into pockets of I like having these tools, I like having these
Yes.
tools. What do you think,
Yep.
Dave?
I 100% agree. Yeah, I think there can be some element. Yeah, and this is actually what you said as well. I think some people don't like playing with like no melee abilities, right?
Hmm.
So if you like to always have a melee unit, like probably don't play Tau or don't play guard, whatever,
Yeah.
right? So if you find that that's frustrating for you, if you don't enjoy massive like monophase sequential kind of puzzles of where to shoot and how to optimize all that stuff, well, probably don't go and play a big shooting army, right? Something like that is a broad guideline, I think I would say as well, right? Some people enjoy that, like I quite enjoy that, right? Having, okay, I've got 8 things to shoot with 3 different guns each. How do I optimize it and stuff like that?
Mhm.
So yeah, people have debated for eons, well, not eons, but years around. It does play style exist versus do versus is that just the way that you should play the army? But I think playstyles do exist when you take it to a higher level in terms of what army you decide to play and how you decide to build your list. For example, right? Are you someone that is comfortable, playing a control-y game? Are you someone that's more comfortable playing a game where you're very aggressive, or you like to have a hammer unit, right? Or you're okay with playing an army where you need 4 units to come together to kill something and knock something out, right? So yeah, you just got to find what gels well for you. There's pros and cons to both, and the reality is the best play style is probably somewhere in the middle there, realistically speaking.
Exactly, the versatility, right?
Yeah, awesome. All right, that's been it for the episode. It's been nice sitting down, bit of chat about 40K, and if you like what you've heard, consider dropping a like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the member section as well. It's going really well. It's been the most rewarding thing has been opening up the member section to us, I think, and it's been really transformed the way that we've done the podcast and the enjoyment we get out of it as well.
Yeah, being able to do that kind of more specific content is something that's, you can't really appeal to the widest audience with that, but there's something there for everyone if you want this specific content on the member side.
Nice. Awesome. All right, that was episode 69. It's just going to be a blank screen. So enjoy, guys. If you're playing a tournament this weekend, best of luck. And best of luck at Sheffield, Vic. And
cheers.
I will
Thank
be
you.
playing,
Enjoy Saffron.
The Triple Vanquisher.
Beautiful.
Awesome. See you guys later.
See you guys. Bye.